The basement in my building isn't on the blueprints. I found a hallway that shouldn't exist, lined with numbered doors. The numbers change when I'm not looking. One door played a recording of me warning myself to stop counting. Now the doors are increasing and the next one is already open. I live in an old apartment building that looks newer than it is. Gray brick, narrow windows, a lobby that smells faintly of lemon cleaner and wet coats. According to the city records I pulled later. Long after curiosity turned into fear, the building has one basement. Singular. Laundry, boiler, storage cages. That's it. That's what the blueprints say. The first time I noticed something wrong, it was because of a leak. Water had been pooling near the back wall of the laundry. I remember thinking the room felt longer than usual, like the walls had subtly stretched. At the far end, past the last washing machine, there was a door I had never seen before. It was metal, unpainted, set into concrete. No handle, just a recessed pull. And stenciled on it, in black paint that had soaked into the steel, was a word and a number. Door 1. I stood there longer than I want to admit, staring like the door might apologize and vanish. I'd lived here for 3 years. I knew every crack in the walls, every broken tile. This wasn't new paint or bad memory. This was new space. I told myself it led to maintenance. Or an old coal room. Something boring. Buildings collect forgotten places the way people collect regrets. I finished my laundry and left. That should have been the end of it. The next morning, I went online and pulled the publicly available blueprints for the building. One basement level. Rectangular. No extensions. No mystery doors. I zoomed in until the lines blurred, then printed them out and traced them with my finger. There was no room for an extra hallway, let alone a door at the far end. That night, I went back down. I don't know what I expected. Maybe the door would be gone. Maybe I'd realize it had always been there and my brain had simply edited it out until now. Instead, there were more. The laundry room ended where it always had, but beyond it, where the concrete wall should have been, was a corridor. Narrow. Low ceiling. Bare bulbs spaced too far apart, leaving pockets of shadow that felt thick and deliberate. Along the right wall were doors. Metal. Identical. Each with stenciled text. Door 1. Door 2. Door 3. I didn't see the end of the hallway. The air smelled wrong. Not mold or rust, but something dry and old, like paper sealed in a box for decades. The hum of the building vanished behind me, replaced by a silence so complete it pressed against my ears. I whispered, "Hello?" And my voice came back thinner, stretched, like it had traveled farther than it should have. I tried the first door. Locked. All of them were locked. I told myself, again, that this was some unused lower level, sealed off, mislabeled. I took out my phone to take pictures, but the camera refused to focus. Every image came out smeared, the numbers on the doors dissolving into black blots. When I stepped back into the laundry room, my phone worked perfectly. I didn't sleep that night. Over the next week, I became obsessed. I timed my visits, checking at different hours. Morning, afternoon, after midnight. The hallway was always there once I noticed it, like a secret that, once learned, can never be unlearned. The number of doors changed. Not dramatically. Subtly. One night there were 5. Another night, 7. Always sequential. Always starting at 1. I never saw a door added or removed. I would look away, glance back, and the count would be different, as if the building itself was quietly correcting something. I asked my neighbors if they'd noticed anything strange in the basement. Blank stares. Polite smiles. One woman laughed and said I was spending too much time online. Another told me the basement creeped him out, but only because of the flickering lights. No one saw the hallway. The super didn't return my calls. The first time a door was open, it was door 4. I noticed it from halfway down the corridor, a thin black seam where there should have been steel. The bulb above it flickered, buzzing louder than the others, like it was struggling to stay on. I stopped walking. Something inside me was screaming to turn around, to leave, to forget all of it. But curiosity has weight. It pulls. I approached slowly and looked inside. The room beyond was small, concrete, windowless. Bare except for a chair bolted to the floor and a tape recorder sitting on it. The recorder was old, the kind with physical buttons worn smooth by use. It was playing. A man's voice crackled through the static. Calm. Tired. Familiar in a way I couldn't place. I didn't think it would start this early, the voice said. If you're hearing this, then it means you've started counting too. My stomach dropped. The voice paused, then added, softer, please write this down. Don't trust the doors to stay the same. Behind me, somewhere deep in the building, I heard a heavy, methodical sound. Like another door being numbered. I didn't realize I was shaking until my teeth started clicking together. The sound behind me came again. Slow. Deliberate. Not a slam, not a scrape, more like a stencil being pressed and lifted, over and over, somewhere far below the building I thought I knew. I backed out of the room, never turning my back on door 4, and the moment I crossed the threshold into the corridor, the door shut on its own. No bang. No drama. Just a soft, final click. The hallway was longer than it had been before. I know how that sounds. I measured it later, counted my steps, compared them across nights. But in that moment, all I knew was that the far darkness seemed farther away, the bulbs more widely spaced. And there were more doors. I didn't count them right away. That felt dangerous, like acknowledging a total would make it settle into place. Instead, I walked backward until the laundry room lights washed over me and the hum of the building returned, thin and comforting. I went upstairs, locked my apartment door, and sat on the floor until morning. The tape recorder's words followed me everywhere. You've started counting too. I hadn't told anyone about the numbers changing. I hadn't even admitted it to myself, not fully. But that voice, steady, resigned, spoke like it knew exactly where I was in the process. Like it had been waiting. The next day, I bought a notebook. I wrote down everything. Times. Door counts. Smells. Sounds. I sketched the hallway as best I could, though every time I tried to draw the end of it, my hand hesitated, unsure where to stop. I labeled the first page with the date, then hesitated again before writing the number of doors. I wrote it out in words, not numerals, like that might matter. That night, the corridor held 11 doors. Door 4 was closed. I stood in front of it for a long time, listening. No sound from inside. I tried door 5. Unlocked. My heart slammed so hard I thought I might pass out. I stood there, hand hovering, arguing with myself in whispers. Every horror story I'd ever absorbed screamed at me to leave. Every rational instinct told me this was a structural anomaly at best, a mental break at worst. I opened the door. The room beyond was bigger than the first. Still concrete, still bare, but this one held shelves. Cardboard boxes stacked neatly, each labeled in black marker with dates and short phrases. Missed the pattern. Count was off. Tried to skip ahead. I opened a box. Inside was a notebook identical to mine. Same brand. Same cheap paper. The first page held familiar handwriting. Mine. I dropped it like it burned. The realization hit me in fragments, like glass under the skin. The voice on the tape recorder. The notes. The way the doors rearranged themselves when I wasn't looking. These weren't random rooms. They were attempts. I stumbled back into the corridor and finally forced myself to count. There were 13 doors. The next morning, my notebook had an extra page. I know I didn't write it. I recognize my own habits, how I cross my letters, how I indent paragraphs. This page was neater. More controlled. Like someone trying very hard to be understood. If you're reading this, you've reached the stage where denial stops working. The doors are not places. They are moments. I sat at my kitchen table, rereading that line until the words lost meaning. I went back down that evening with a flashlight, though the bulbs were still lit. Door 6 was open. Inside was a room laid out like a small apartment. Bed. Desk. A window painted onto the wall with meticulous care. On the desk sat a calendar, every day crossed out except one. The date was tomorrow. On the bed lay a man asleep. He looked older than me. Thinner. His hair was grayer, his face lined with exhaustion. But there was no mistaking it. It was me. I backed away so fast I tripped over the threshold. The door slammed shut, and when I counted again, there were 12 doors. I stopped going down after that. I tried to move. Tried to stay with a friend. The moment I spent a night away from the building, the counting started anyway. Street lights. Steps. Windows in opposite buildings. Everything organized itself into sequences that begged to be finished. The notebook kept gaining pages. Each one more urgent than the last. You can't stop the doors by ignoring them. Skipping causes overlap. Overlap is worse. On the final page, written in my own handwriting but steadier than I have ever managed, was this. When the last door appears, it will already be open. Do not go inside. If you are reading this, write it down anyway. Someone else might get further. Tonight, there are 14 doors. I hear the sound again now, deep below the basement, patient and precise. I know what comes next. I know that the blueprints will never change, no matter how many levels unfold beneath the building. I know that the doors are not waiting for someone specific. They are waiting for someone who notices. I am writing this before door 15 appears. If you live here now, or someday will, and you think the basement feels longer than it should, count carefully. And when you reach the door with your voice behind it, begging you to stop, remember this. It already didn't.